Hello, my name is Mike Gordon, and I am here with two intrepid explorers who have been in the field and done an exploration for a mystery animal that has been reported but never found. And it is called Ogopogo. And Ogopogo lives up in Canada, apparently, in Okanagan Lake. But this is probably the closest you've come, would you say, to actually being able to prove that Ogopogo exists and get a clear idea of what it really is. Would that be a fair statement?
I think it's fair. Let the audience determine if it's of great value. I think it's showed that we've progressed and that we have evidence that is more than just hearsay.
Yeah. Well, last year, remember how we had sonar hits? Well, we've had more sonar hits, and also we've become more proficient with our equipment. Now we have actual
Photographs and
photographs of the screenshots. Pete's become more efficient. I'm very proud of him for that. And we now had also a camera person, Canadian national, helping us for this expedition. So,
okay, let's go back to the beginning of this. You went up there last year, the two of you, and
Yes.
and you had different. You only had one boat, and you had different equipment or new equipment that you weren't real, and you had mixed results on that. And that was like your fifth or sixth trip up. So every time you go up, you refine it. And you go, okay, we need this piece of equipment.
That's right.
Now you have underwater sonar
Mm-hmm.
to be able to actually take pictures of this creature.
Mm-hmm.
And what other
we
revolutionary things do you have?
we had our underwater camera system.
Okay.
Yeah, we have that, and we've also tried using that on the creature. But I'd like to clarify that getting a sonar image of the creature and getting an underwater picture of the creature are two different things.
Mm-hmm.
Think of the sonar as like being the metal detector.
Okay.
You're basically going to the park looking for a coin, and you find the coin with the metal detector. That was rather easy, but then you have to dig down and find the coin in the earth. And that's where the underwater camera system, in a sense, comes into play. And that's tricky.
Okay.
That's tricky. And we still haven't got anything definitive on our underwater footage.
On the camera.
On the camera.
This is the sonar that we're looking here, sonar, and we have many more sonar pictures that we're going to bring up that Pete is going to explain and go over. But you guys are excited about this. This is as close as you've come.
Yeah.
I can tell there's an excitement about you this time that, yeah, we're onto something. We've found something. We know what we're after. And now we know how to go get it. And you're adding more equipment or more refined equipment next time. So
Yeah.
walk me through it. You get up to Lake Okanagan. You find the place you're going to explore. You
do
put the
lots of
boats in the
work.
water. You put everything
Yeah.
down and off you go.
Mm-hmm.
And now what? And then you find it immediately, right?
Yeah, actually we did.
Yeah, you did.
We didn't expect
Usually it's days on end.
Yeah, we didn't expect to, and we'll get to that.
Okay.
I would just add that with the underwater camera, although it was hard to use it, we did get some results, which we'll talk about a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was
Which
useful.
in itself is exciting from our point of view. From your point of view, probably nothing. But it's more evidence that we're really on track to, find and get its picture next year.
Okay, Peter, walk us through it. What you get in the water and off you're going and you see something underwater. After you get done screaming and hollering and yelling, then what do you do?
Well, the first thing we do is we take screenshots, something we weren't able to do last year, but this year, screenshots like this. This is a side scan. This is a down scan, and this is a side scan. So the side scan scrolls this way, and the down scan scrolls this way. In this particular example, we call it 21.6655. That's the depth, and that's the time of day.
Okay.
And we saw something right here. And looking at that from the down scan and the side scan, we were able to get some length
Okay.
measurements.
Okay.
Using this depth gauge on the right, we could estimate the size of this animal, well, if it was an animal,
Okay.
okay?
At this point, you're not
At
sure.
this point,
just
you
know.
look at it and you go, I don't know what that is, okay? But if it was an animal, it would be 4 feet here, 6 feet here. The overall length, using the side scan and the down scan,
Mhm.
and I'll explain that later, how I use those measurements, it would have been about a 12-foot animal, 3.7 meters.
Okay.
That's a pretty good sized animal, and an animal that you wouldn't expect in that lake, because the biggest thing in the lake that they know of is maybe 3 feet, 2.5 feet maybe. So this is something extraordinarily large compared to
Okay.
that.
And this is actual like a side scan sonar. You put it in the water and you cruise, and it's out back, and it's looking up and down all at the same time.
Right.
That's a pretty sophisticated piece
It's
of
a
equipment.
computer
Okay.
connected to a transponder, and it puts it on the screen just
Okay.
like you're looking at.
Okay.
Yeah. Some of the stuff that you see in here
Mhm.
is nutrients in the water column.
Okay.
Yeah.
We found that a lot of our sonar hits happened when we had the nutrients in the water column. Pete, would you elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, we found that when we would go out early in the morning, we would see nothing in the water column. And as sun up came, you would see a rise of things in the water column. I assumed it was food. Shrimp, fish, smaller things, and then larger things would come in. So we could tell if there was food in the water. We could also see these things on the, the bottom of the lake.
Mhm.
That's the bottom of the lake. This is the top of the lake. This, in fact, is this fuzzy area is bubbles that came from the motor.
Well, that's a
So-
sensitive piece of equipment.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's parts where, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but there's parts where we used a buoy and part of it for marking,
Mhm.
and that also showed up on the,
Right.
Okay.
Nothing that you see here is enhanced in any way.
Okay.
All we've done is print it out, and in order to print it out to that size,
Mhm.
we had to enlarge it,
Okay.
and that's all that we've done.
Okay. This is the second sonar scan. What are we looking at?
Well, I call it the serpentine animal. We started at 23 feet, about 6:34 in the morning, and I saw this animal here. We'll get larger
Okay.
views of that.
Mhm.
Here's the down scan. Here's, again, the side scan. It's broken up a little bit. Part of that can be due to the roughness of the water. If
Okay.
you get a little
Boat's
chop,
moving.
that means the transponder is kind of doing this.
Okay.
So you don't get a perfect picture, you get a chopped up picture. You get somewhat, then you see this.
It's definitely a serpentine shape.
But,
There's
yes.
no question about that.
Okay, so this is the first one. This was the second view of it, some 6 minutes later. And then we saw it again roughly another 9 minutes later.
so.
This is the first look at it, second look at it, and the third look at it. First, second, and third. We'll do an enlargement of this, and we'll talk about it more later.
Okay.
But this animal made a shape like this. What it is, I have no idea.
Okay.
It may be the animal has something in its mouth, I don't know. Or it may just curl itself like that. Why it would be straight, I have no idea.
Okay.
But it followed from the first time we saw this animal, to the second time we saw this animal, to the third time, and we turned. We know it's the same animal because we would turn here. There's markers that indicate that we've turned. We go back about the same distance, and we see the animal again. We turn again. We go back, and about the same distance away, we see the animal again.
I like to reinforce to people who might be suggesting that we're just simply filming underwater logs or whatever on the bottom. Every time we go over the same area, there'd be a difference, a change in shape.
Right.
And this is
There's
something.
no log that swims like that or
Yeah,
moves like that.
precisely. That's our point. You know, it changes shape.
Okay.
This was a large animal. I just call it the animal with possibly a fish in its mouth.
Oh, okay.
You can see it here, but here it is enlarged. Roughly 16 feet long,
Okay.
almost 5 meters. Wayne mentioned the buoy.
Mm-hmm.
This is a buoy. It's what it
Okay.
looks like on site
Sonar. Yeah.
sonar. It's not an animal, a giraffe. Okay. This is the mud and sand being thrown up, or the rock, or the bottom of the buoy. This is the top of the buoy. This is the line that comes down.
Okay.
Okay, this animal is has something up at the top that looks to me like it might be food, or it might be a fish.
Okay. And this is a different animal than the first one we saw.
Different animal,
Okay.
different
This is
day.
a different, this is a different thing.
This is a
Okay.
different day.
All right.
We follow it, and by turning again, we followed it. We put a buoy down, and we see what could be the animal here. Again, on the down scan, we can see it here and here.
Okay.
So it was a bit above the water where we threw the buoy, and then a little later on, 3 minutes later, it was apparently here and here, apparently down in the sediment, or it was digging its way in.
Okay.
I don't know. You can see some debris up here. That would be where the animal is digging straight down, throwing up debris straight up. Here, when it's coming out, perhaps it was coming out of its hole, it grabbed a fish, and this is debris from around the hole.
Okay. Let me stop you right there. Holes. How do you know he's going? I mean, where does he go down in a hole? How do you know there are holes there?
You think you had us, didn't you?
No,
Okay.
I just saying we hadn't covered that for the viewers. They want to know. I'm sure they want to know how you know there are holes down there and he's going down in it.
We have video footage of it. That's how.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, our correspondent who was with us, we had him not only filming us, but also we gave him the job of watching stuff with the underwater camera system.
Mm-hmm.
And he stumbled across some of these holes. And where we were finding them was around Sun Rock, or another people call it Indian Rock, however you prefer. That same location is where I had my sighting of the creature back in 2013 on the
Okay.
surface.
Okay.
Well, now we find a bunch of hole-like things, and I'll show them on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
And we found all these scattered all over the place, just around this particular region.
Tell them how big the hole, or at least one of
Yeah.
the
How
holes
big are
was.
these holes? I mean, are we
So-
talking holes or are we talking holes?
He estimates it to be about the length of a football, or 1.5 feet wide.
Okay. So what you're saying is these creatures go down into these holes?
Yeah,
Okay, so they're about this big around, but they're 20 feet long.
yeah.
Wow, okay.
Well, here's another fact I want to get out real quickly. When you see the pictures of the holes, they just look like indentations. Well, with silty bottom stuff, they don't stay open. They fill in if something comes in or goes out of it. They cavitate, you might say.
That's why we're saying this is debris that's
Yeah.
probably pulled up with it when it's coming out.
This is like muddy surface. It's not like a hard
Okay.
rock.
No, it's mud and sand, and
Okay.
it's a
So it's
fairly
real
flat
easy,
surface.
real easy for some, because I know a lot of animals do burrow and that sort of thing. But not a creature 20 feet long I haven't seen, so that's interesting.
All right. We have an animal we think was emerging and then moving horizontally. I always say it looks like it's coming up vertically, but it also is moving sideways. So what we're only seeing is about half of the animal this way. It's moving away from us probably.
Oh, okay.
And then we're seeing it there.
Mm-hmm.
So this is an animal that is roughly 6 feet by 6 feet here, 6 feet here, about total of 27, almost 28 feet long. Once you take into consideration that part of it's going away from you and the other half is at another angle.
And you were saying you had to incorporate some trigonometry to
Yeah.
figure that one out.
I'll explain that in just a little bit.
Yeah,
That-
okay.
It's important, but it's not that important at this point. I think you're more interested in the pictures than my explanation. Well, for example, we've got here, this animal is basically turning like this, like making a C.
Okay.
And at 9.5 feet this way, 11.5 feet this way, again, you use these markers on the side.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you use a down scan, you get 10 feet this way and 8.5 feet this way. That's how you get the 18.5 feet and the 20.5 feet with a total, just simple Pythagorean theorem, 27.5 feet roughly.
So this is not a sand shrimp. This is a large, large animal
Right.
that swims like a serpent.
Again, you can see the debris coming off of here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what this is, probably debris, but
And the indentation where the
Right.
hole would have been.
again, I saw it here, but I missed it here.
Okay.
Wasn't paying attention, I don't know. But there it is again, about, well, let's see, 3 minutes later, and we see this. And then about 2 minutes later, or 3 minutes, well, that'd be more like 4 minutes later, we see this. And so, 1, 2, 3, there it is, there it is, there it is. We've turned here, gone back. We can follow the bubbles, we can look at the terrain underneath the water,
Mm-hmm.
and we can see that it's about the same distance, so we know it's the same thing as this, only seen at a little bit later time. And then we see it again, like here,
Okay.
where we've now seen the animal probably trying to get back into the ground.
Now you've visually seen, Wayne, haven't you? Have you seen him swimming on the surface? You both have seen that, correct?
I've seen it with its head out of the water.
Oh, you've seen the head of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I seen the back of the body.
But you could tell it was swimming in a serpentine manner.
It wasn't doing it sideways. It was more like up and down. Actually, all I saw was just a hump come out of the water, then followed by another hump.
Oh, it was doing this.
And by that time, I jumped out to the vehicle because we were stationed on a vantage point with the vehicle and tried to get a picture of it, and it was already too late. My guess was it was just simply come up and then go back down.
Okay, and that corroborates what you're seeing for size here. Okay, cool.
Now explain why we use the Pythagorean theorem. This is a 90-degree angle.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it just so happens that down scan and side scan form a 90 degree.
Sure, sure.
That's essentially what it is.
Sure.
I tested it out multiple times. I know this. This is the science of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we have a possible pair.
Oh.
And you might say, how would you get a pair? Well, this is early in the day, we were only at 14 feet, and I saw something. Now you can barely make it out. You have to take my word temporarily for that. You can see it here. You can see that. That's not enhanced. That's simply this, just enlarged.
Okay.
Okay, but if you can see that, you can see that there are two different animals at a different shape than over here. Now we've got two animals, and now they're parallel to one another. The turn occurred right about here, and the transponder flipped out of the water.
Yeah, that's right.
We were turning,
Okay.
rope or something, I don't know what caused it, but at any rate, it popped out of the water, he pushes it in, didn't quite go in. So it took him about 15 seconds, and just as he got it back in the water, we got this. That is that, same
Okay.
thing.
Okay.
Both side scan and down scan. So we hadn't really, it's not fantastic to say this is this, because we were within 30 seconds of, or a minute of the same two.
And there's nothing else in the water that big.
No,
I mean,
you
it's a
can see
lake,
it.
so they got
There's nothing
trout
there.
and-
So here's two, and they're coming together, and here's two, now they're together, and this occurred within a minute.
Okay.
We just got lucky. The transponder didn't hurt anything. I don't know why. Seems like shouldn't have worked that way, but that's the way it worked. I've highlighted it here with yellow just to show what the shape is if you can't see it from here.
Yeah, that's a hard one to see on that. Where
It's
your
hard,
finger is.
it's hard to see, but it's there.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Again, if you take the total length, you're going to end up with an animal that's roughly the larger animal, which later we'll get into is probably the female, is 11 feet, almost 12 feet,
Mm-hmm.
and the smaller one, the thinner one, is around 10 feet, a little over.
So
And
you think it's male, female, and not female spawn or child? You know.
I don't think so.
Okay.
There are a few eels that form pair bonds.
The word
Such as-
eel. That's what was in my head. This looks like an eel, doesn't it?
Yeah. So it looks like an eel, and you've got. I'll get into a little bit more. I know we keep putting things off, but at any rate, let's just say there's a pair, and we've seen it twice, here and here, in a very short period of time. So we had a closer look at some of these. The one we were just looking at, the pair.
Mm-hmm.
I made a, I don't know what you call it, a model.
Okay.
Looks something like this. And then this is the other view, made a model, what you would look at. Looks
Okay.
something like that. I
Okay.
think that's a pretty good depiction. And again, this is only at 14 feet, because this was in the early morning. We were just out there, we didn't expect anything, and all of this occurs within a period of just a minute of
So-
us being out there.
So you see all this stuff underneath you. Do you guys worry for your safety? I mean, these things, they weren't aggressive, right? Or, I mean,
We aren't smart enough to be afraid of these things.
So, there hasn't been very documented attacks or anything like that.
okay.
We've kind of gotten numb to the idea, you might say.
You're experienced explorers.
Yeah. All right, let's look at a serpentine. This is enlarged again from one that we saw earlier. Now you can see what I think this area right in here is probably at its tail.
Okay.
And then you see a large area here, and then this would be the head. I may have it backwards, but I think I'm pretty well. Here we see it again, just 6 minutes later, we see the same animal. You can see it's changed shape.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a submerged log or piece of
right.
seaweed or something like that. Also, you can see what I think is the tail, and you see the body is definitely changed some shape. And then if you'll remember this particular look, I have no idea what it is. I don't know why it looks like that. Okay, this is another sequence. We saw this. This is not a dinosaur, okay? Kind of looks like a dinosaur, but this is all debris. This is the animal. The rest of the animal is kind of hidden by the debris. We threw in the buoy.
Yeah,
This
that's all the debris that comes up.
This is all debris. You can see that when you kick up sand and mud, it picks it up. The sonar picks it up very well. But was about where this animal was. So we threw it down, and we saw something like this coming up, so we threw the buoy in. That's why we have this picture. I don't think it's deep enough. We might have frightened it, I don't know. But then about 16 minutes, what is it?
12 minutes.
12 minutes later, it looks like it's probably going into the ground. And I don't know what, it's bent over or something. It's facing
Interesting.
the sonar.
I've got an observation.
What?
I'm certainly not a trained guy, but just looking at it from me, you threw that in and it hit the bottom and splashed. but the debris only comes up in a clump and doesn't really go high. This one
Mm-hmm.
goes up much higher, which to me says it had to have some propulsion.
Yeah.
There was no propulsion there.
Right.
It had to be, it would seem to me, but
Well, that's an interesting observation that you made, because some people might say, well, you're just filming your own buoy. No, you just dispelled that.
well, I mean, it's pretty evident there that the debris acts differently when something lands on it
Yeah.
and it splashes up.
And if you're pulling up debris with you, it would look something,
Yeah.
around
Something
the
that
shoulders or
projected
something.
out there. Interesting. I
And
would have
then-
been just over the moon looking at these things. if I
Then
was
this again, a sequence of another animal at a different time, at a different depth. We're talking about something now that's 35 feet deep. This animal, if you look at it on side and down scan, is somewhat sideways to us. It's more like that. You can't see it full height or
Okay.
depth. This is probably the tail. This is probably the head region. Again, 3 minutes later, we go back and we see it again. Now it's in a shape that's more serpentine. And then another 3 minutes later, it's going back into the ground, apparently.
So your hypothesis is they live in the bottom in these holes, they come out and feed, and they go back in these holes, and that's why people don't see them unless they actually make it to the surface, which they don't do all that often. Am I
Right.
correct in that? Is that
That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
Yeah.
right on.
I think you're spot on.
Okay,
So
now,
we also suspect that the creatures are not really that rare. It's not like an endangered species.
Okay.
probably not. We had another sequence I thought was very interesting. I started out this talk with this animal here, what we thought was an animal, or might not be an animal. But then I looked back and I saw something like this. Okay. So that was the first thing I saw. We turned around, we went back, and there was something like this. And then I turned around and then there's something like this. And then I turned around and we saw something like this. It's very sketchy.
Yeah, it could be fish in the water column too.
Yeah, but if you follow this one,
Right,
there's,
right.
there's something there that's connected. Let's
Here
talk
we
about
go.
what this might be.
Okay.
Eel anatomy. Some are large. I like this one because it's of the fangs, but that's a fang snake eel. The conger eel here, you can see that there are conger eels that are roughly 7 feet, 8 feet long.
Mm-hmm.
Here's something called the king snake eel, and it's even longer.
Mm-hmm.
And although this is a bit of an optical illusion, the moray eels can be quite large too. So they have teeth, eels do, and I wanted to make point that they have teeth, and with teeth, with an eel, you have two jaws. And so you have two sets of teeth. That's so that they can catch fish. And the second set of teeth will pop out, sort of like the Alien movie, the Alien, and grab the fish. So they can do it with the front teeth, but they also use these back teeth, a pharyngeal jaw.
So they open their mouth and another set of teeth comes out.
That's right.
Yeehaw.
Also, they're probably ambush predators. There were a few cases in there were a few cases on the sonar where it looks like there might be fish in the mouth of this animal, one of these animals. Can't say for sure, but if it is fish, it would be something like this. Eels predate on fish.
Okay.
They can predate on a lot of other things too that are small, octopi, shrimp, all sorts of things that might want. But they use these teeth because they're adapted for ambushing and grabbing.
Mm-hmm.
Ogopogo is said to have horns. People have noticed, and I puzzled over that, and there's several possibilities. One of them is they might have these projections that are found on some eels. those could be considered horns.
Mm-hmm.
More likely, they have these, we'll call them nostrils. That's not technically correct. But they sense smell with them. And those kind of look like horns to me a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as teeth, they have pretty good sized teeth, if you can see that. This is a moray eel.
Mm-hmm.
This eel right here is well, I won't get into that. But they have pretty good sized teeth too. So, they have teeth.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about sexual dimorphism. Let's get briefly into that. These are females, two different animals. They're in spawning conditions. You can see that they're filled with eggs. They have the paddle-like tail. I thought that was interesting. The males are almost as large, but they're thinner. And you might remember there were a pair where there's a larger one and a smaller one. Here's another male.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're roughly the same size, but they're thinner. And that's the picture that I was referring to,
That's the two side by side.
side by side.
Mm-hmm.
They do pair bond, some. The garden eels, for example, who live in the ground, they pair bond.
So that is a demonstrated way that eels do.
Right.
They do go.
And
Okay,
they'll
okay.
intertwine. This may be prelude to an intertwining. I have no idea.
Okay.
But then that's when they fertilize the eggs and disperse the eggs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Something about Ogopogo that's puzzled me is that there is no apparent dorsal fin on the animal. And I wondered if eels always have a dorsal fin. And there's an electric eel, for example, doesn't have any dorsal fin.
Mm-hmm.
Some eels have dorsal fin, some have this anal fin that runs the entire length or most of the length.
Right.
Some have none at all.
Mm-hmm.
Some like the snake eel.
Mm-hmm.
Although I can't say for sure all snake eels don't have big fins. There's another thing about the Ogopogo is when they're on the surface, probably migrating from one area to another for whatever reason,
Mm-hmm.
you can see a bulge here, 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 and here. It's like they're going like this.
Not this way.
Not like a snake,
Yeah,
but
okay.
like this.
Okay.
And I wanted to show that there are eels that undulate just like that.
Okay.
And the head is aimed forward, but the body is going up and down like this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been a puzzle, and I think this is a possible answer to that puzzle. And then there have been a few very rare instances where people have said there is an Ogopogo that came out of the water and was in reeds or briefly on ground, then went back into the water.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there are catfish and there are eels that will go up on land, move around on land, maybe even predate on land, and then go back in the water. And I wanted to mention that it's possible that the eel can do that.
Okay.
And finally, there's something called, I was looking through an encyclopedia of cryptozoology. I'm not a cryptozoologist, but I was led to it by following up the idea of what are eels and what can eels do.
Mm-hmm.
And in it, I came up with the native Inuit lore of this animal, Tzurek, I guess I'm pronouncing it correctly. They say it's similar to Ogopogo. You can look it up in the Wikipedia for Tzurek, and you find that it has been associated with or is much like Ogopogo. That's what got my attention. That's why I'm mentioning this. This was just a rendition of somebody's idea of what the Inuit saw. I have no idea if that's correct or not. I like the idea of the tail like this. Apparently the only thing they've seen is the head and the tail. The head looks something like that. This is a rendition in which they think it may be a pinniped, that is a leopard seal. I don't think Ogopogo is a leopard seal. but they don't even know if this tazuric is a leopard seal either. There may be leopard seals and this eel. At any rate, in this picture I saw something here, and I said to myself, that looks a lot like what I've seen in some of my sonars. And so I blew up this one right here. That's what this is. That's all it is. It's a picture, a drawing, let's say, of it. And who knows how correct that is? Who knows if that's correct? I like the idea of the tail, because if this is a tail, these are tails here. This is a head and a body that looks like that. It reminded me of that.
Interesting. So, what do you figure that you've proven in this? Besides, you've proven there is something down there that's rather large. But where do you go from here with this now, Wayne?
Whoa, you're asking me questions. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I think the best thing we can do is go back.
Okay.
Okay, that's a good start.
Is there a time of year when when more sightings than another, or is it pretty much year round? Or I mean, you know,
Well, July is a hot point.
that's the hot point.
Yeah, that's a hot point. Let's see. Ironically, we had some pretty good success in September. This year was a colder year. It was El Nino, and and the year before was El Nino, and it seemed like we had a little bit more success, or at least consistently getting these sonar images last year. We still got images this year. We proved it. All I can say at this point is that we are making plans. I don't want to make a public announcement on when we're going up.
Okay.
But the same general region has yielded results, and we're most likely going back to the same area in Naramata before. I mean, there's really no reason for us to change.
And you're going to take a camera that you can actually set on the bottom that will.
Well, it's going to modify my camera, that's all.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Basically, how it works with our underwater camera system that's suspended by cable into the water.
Right.
The problem is with that is that you have all the waves that make it go up and down, so that messes with the footage. In addition to that, the currents make the camera want to spin kind of however. With the moon lander, we can position it and stake it in place.
Okay.
And we're also looking at the possibility of getting a underwater ROV, where you can see what's going on and control it and stuff like that. And I'm probably going to end up having to be the ROV and underwater camera guy. I no longer get to be driver of the boat. Or at least driving him around.
Is that a demotion or a promotion?
I don't know. To me, it doesn't matter one way or another. I'm not doing it for the ego of it. I'm doing it for the enjoyment of doing the science, and I enjoy the boating. It's a whole lot more fun than sitting on the shore of the lake waiting for the creature to come on up.
Okay, let's recap what we've got here. You've determined there is something down there that's large. You also are pretty sure that it goes into holes in the bottom, right? What else am I missing there? You don't know what it eats, but it looks like it eats fish. Eels typically eat fish. And you know it swims in this motion, not this motion, which could... But other than that, it's still an enigma. How many years has Ogopogo people have sighted but never... I mean, are you guys closer than anybody's ever been to figuring out what Ogopogo is?
I think we are.
No.
Oh, by the way, if there's anyone who wants to help us, get in touch with us. We've got more than Ogopogo research going on.
Yeah.
But we won't get into that. But if there's anyone who wants to get involved, we're inclusive.
So I'm seeing this and I want to know more about it. Where do I go?
So I would recommend for the videos, go to Dial Discovery on YouTube.
Okay.
And if you want to check out the website, go to animaldiscovery.org.
And if you want to get involved and actually help, or say you've had sightings, or give them any more information that you might have to Ogopogo, they're open to it, and that information will be at the end of this video as well. And I'm excited. That's pretty exciting stuff. And now you know where to look, you know what you're looking for. Now you just got to get a picture of it. So in closing, we've got the morning sonar evidence time distribution. It looks like this is where you get your money. Explain this, would you?
Sure. We usually go out about 5:30 in the morning so that we'll hit sunrise, which in the case of September was about 6:30. And I plotted all of the hits that we had. Were
Okay.
legitimate hits.
Okay.
And each one of these red dots is a hit. So you can see that all the observation window total is from 8:30 to from 5:30 to 8:30 roughly. But all of our hits are right around sunrise and a little after.
Okay.
So within 90 minutes, you have a shot at it. We're telling you this so that if there's any other researchers that want to try this on some other lake that have cryptid of some sort, that's something like Ogopogo, try it in the morning. Try it before sunrise.
And they can try it at evening too, or at sunset.
Right? We've had success in sunset, but mostly in sunrise.
I like fishing. Early in the morning, late in the afternoon.
That's right. It's like good fishing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Must be when the bait comes up.
That's
Before it comes
right.
up.
We
Okay.
need somebody to join us for the bait. No, I'm kidding.
That's
I'm
it.
going to be busy that week.
Oh, okay.
But I'll be anxious to see what you come up with. Thank you for joining us. This is the Search for Ogopogo, and these gentlemen and a whole team of other people are on the scent, and they've got some pretty good information here, and now it's just a matter of getting the actual photos, and we will be posting more of these videos as we get more information. And again, look at the end, and if there's any information you would like to add or pass along, they're all ears and would love any help that they can get along. So Peter Bench, Wayne Hall, thank you. I'm excited to see what you guys come up with.
Thank you.